Jayveera. I work for the Central Bank of Sri Lanka about 19 years. I think we had a discussion on the very first day on the program. So since we have already late, I'll straight away move into the topic. Is that okay? Or you need to know anything or more about me? However, I prefer to have a sort of a two-way communication. That's my style. I would like to ask questions from you. If you can respond to that, then I can get a better understanding about whether you have understood the concepts that we are discussing, because I can't see your faces. If I can see your faces, I can get some idea about what is your feelings, but here that option is not available. So in any time, if you have any question, you can interrupt, uh, ask any question, any comment. So I'll try to answer all questions. They have some limits because of my obligations or the work in place, but I'll try to um, answer all those questions. And all those are my personal opinions. First that I have to say that all these are my personal opinions. So our topic is, oh sorry, yes, any comments or anything from your side? Okay, then silence means no comments or no questions. Uh, yeah, but I again ask you to actively participate. It will be useful for you. Do mistakes here, learn through the mistakes, uh, because you have an objective to sit for an exam as well, like academic objective as well. Don't wait until that time to make a mistake. Do the mistake today and correct it and learn through the mistake. So our topic is, the chapter is economics and investment analysis. Previously you have done few topics, which includes asset classes and things related to investment management and advising as an investment advisor. What's the knowledge that you require? You may wonder why do we need economics here, especially investment analysis. Obviously it is required. We will go through and try to understand why we need this economic knowledge. In this chapter, it's economics and investment analysis. So I'll just follow the same order in the handbook. We'll start with economics, but in the chapter we have all these topics. Macroeconomic theory, that's about how do we see about the economy as in aggregate. Then the part of it, central banks, what's the role of a central bank. Then microeconomic theory, where we discuss about individuals and firms or the specific sectors, how do they behave, they take decisions. Then we'll move into statistics, uh, basic statistics, which requires for you to do some analysis or forecast in financial markets and economics as well. Then financial mathematics, what are the mathematical concepts that we use in financial markets, calculation of present value, future value, maybe interest, different compound interest and things like that. Then the next three topics are related to investment analysis, fundamental analysis and technical analysis. In the fundamental analysis, we do analysis based on the fundamentals. That means, say, if you want to analyze a firm, what are the what is reflected through financial statements and business strategies and things like that. But when it comes to technical analysis, is purely based on the past prices available in the market, patterns. It's basically pattern analysis, and use those, identify the patterns and forecast the prices, share prices, or maybe bond prices or the FX rates into the future. Then yields and ratios, that is related to how do we measure our rate of return when we do an investment. How do we measure the rate of return? Different matrices in the yield and ratios. We'll discuss those things. Then finally, valuation. How do we value different asset classes or investments? How do we value a bond? How do we value a share? But at the basic level. But then I can remember some of you asked at the very first class, I have mathematical background, whether I'll be able to follow this course. Now you might see, yes, there are topics, some are related to, so have some idea, or you need some knowledge on mathematics. But on the other hand, there may be participants, they might think we don't have mathematical background, whether we can do this. So don't worry, both parties can do this. What you need is some commitment. If you have any, like in one sector, just spend more time on that. But everything, economics side as well as mathematical side, we are discussing the basic concepts. We don't want rocket science here to discuss these topics. So with that, I'll move forward. So we'll start with economics. Though the first topic is macroeconomic theory, first I thought it's better to discuss about, or give a brief introduction about economics. What is economics? What do you think? What are your views? What is economics? Any idea? So the word economics comes originally from a Greek word, but the basic is it is about household management. How do we manage our household? So basically, economics is about the choices that individual have. As individuals, we do make choices. Why? Why do we make choices? We will discuss it in very soon. So economics about studying how individuals, whenever we say individuals, not only a person, it can be a firm even, and not beyond that, as a group of people, companies, governments, how do we behave and how do we respond to the events happening around? How do we demand something? How do we make choices? The study about these things we call in general economics. So would you like to have any of these? Definitely yes. Yes, isn't it? Would you like to have you might have a vehicle now, car, whatever it is. Would you like to go for a much higher level? Or would you like to wear every day a new cloth? So our requirements are unlimited as individuals. We would like to have all those things. If we are living in a house, but most probably we would like to know to move into a much better house. Or maybe we are living in a city, we would like to move into a rural area, somewhere we can spend our time leisurely. But there are restrictions. As we wish, we can't do all those things. Even though we have the desire to consume something, it is not possible. Why? What is the reason?
Because of the scarcity.
Yeah, that because of the scarcity. Thank you. That because of the scarcity. That means the resources or the things available are very limited. Things available are very limited. There's a huge demand. Everyone would like to have unlimited consumption, but the availability is limited. So that scarcity, therefore, we have to make a choice. What are the things that we are going to use? So scarcity is like a good is not freely available for the consumption as we wish, simply. We would like to consume more, but it is not available. So that is scarcity. Then economic good. In economics, we call them economic goods. Why? A good that is scarce, we call it as an economic good. So the desire for economic goods exceeds the amount that is freely available in the nature. So we would like to consume more, but it is not available. So it is a scarce good. So we call them as economic goods. Then what do? We would like to consume more, consume something, but it is not available. We cannot have it. Then what do? We go for an alternative. Then we make choices. So we have different few alternatives. What we do, we select among available alternatives what is the best, what we can do, what will fulfill my requirement based on the availability. So the choice. So in economics, we discuss about this choice. How do we make decision? How do we make a choice? So what are the things that we need? The resources. We need resources to produce whatever the goods or the services we need inputs. Those are the resources. What are the resources we need to produce economic goods? We will discuss that as well, because we should have some idea about what are the resources that we are going to use to produce economic or produce goods or services. Based on the availability of resources, ultimate output as well depends as well. So the labor, human labor. When do we say labor? What does it mean? Is it just doing a hard work? Is it
human resource?
Human resource, yeah. Simply, in other words, human resource. When we say human resource, our knowledge, that is also part of labor. That is part of labor. We give our knowledge to whatever the work, our workplace, or to some individual again, or maybe for a firm. So we use our knowledge to produce something or deliver a service. So that is what we need as one of the major inputs into the production. Then what else? Capital. But remember here, whenever we say capital, it's not the capital that we discuss in financial markets. Simply, in financial markets, whenever we say capital, we think it's about funds, money. But here it is not about money. What are the machines or infrastructure, things that we use to produce goods or services? That is capital. Then we need land and other natural resources. Even though we have human beings or the human resources, they are knowledge. Then we have even to produce machines, we need human knowledge. It may be a building, computers, anything that capital, we need human knowledge. And to build that, we need some other natural resources as well. So in classical economics, these are the three basic inputs that we require, or the sources. But in the neoclassical one, there's a fourth one who is going to combine, put all these three together and produce. That is the enterprise. That is considered as the fourth input to the economic process, or to produce goods or services. So then, when we make, I explained, so economics is about making choices, or selecting one or the other alternatives. See, can we, are we all making the same choice? Can we do the same thing? So there's a concept called fallacy of composition, where, say, for an example, simply in this, the example is, assume you went to watch a match, whatever, either soccer, rugby, or cricket. Say everyone all are sitting, so you can see the match, you can watch it, but somehow one guy feel like, okay, if I stand up, I can have a much better view. Yes, correct. If only one guy stand up, he or she can have a better view. So what would happen as, okay, now one person stand up, is having a better view. Others also think, okay, I also should get up, then I can have a better view. Everything stand up. Then what would happen? Will everyone get the better view? Mostly not. Or maybe the case is worse. It becomes worse. So that's right. Any decision which gives the best result for an individual, it may not be the best result for a group of people, or for a group or a court, or to the entire population. So that's a problem. So therefore, even in economics, even though we said we study behavior of individuals, that may not be that individual decisions may not work for everyone better. So we have to think about different, what are the decisions that we can take individually, what would be the best thing, and as a group, what would be the best decision. So based on that thinking, economics is divided into two subgroups, microeconomics and macroeconomics. That's why you see in the syllabus, for the content, there are two topics, macroeconomic theory and microeconomic theory. What do we do in macroeconomics? we think as a group. In micro, it is about individuals. How individuals make decisions, how firms make decisions, what are the factors, what would be the outcome based on their decisions, how do they set the price, what would be the demand and supply for the goods and services. But in macro, yes, almost the same thing, but in aggregate. We put everything together, everyone together as a country. We look at what is the scenario. So in that, in the macroeconomics, in this module, we are going to discuss national income. That means as a country or as a nation, what is our income? There are two broad measures, GDP or the gross domestic product and gross national product. So we are going to discuss about this. What is national income? How do we measure the two measures, GDP and GNP, gross national product? What are the differences? Then in an economy, this national income, it may not remain flat over every year. It won't be the same thing. It may vary. Our income may vary with time to time. It may go up or it may go down. So that creates a economic cycle that we call the economic cycle. When income goes up, we call it economic growth. When it goes down, economic recession. Where is the bottom? Where is the top? If we go from a one bottom to another bottom, or one top to another top, it is we call economic cycle. So we will discuss what are the factors behind this, how this GDP changes or GNP changes, then based on that how economic cycles happens, what are the factors. Then as a country, what we produce, we consume within the country. Not only that, we may sell it to other countries. We may sell it to other countries, that is exports. Then not only that, to produce goods or services, or because of we cannot produce some goods within our country, we may buy those things from other countries, imports. Then what is the difference? That is balance of payment. What is the net we have through the transactions with other countries? Balance of payments. There are again two parts. Current account through export and imports. What is the difference? The other one is the capital account through investments. In the current account through exports and imports, what do we get? Whether we pay more or whether we receive more. Then the capital account as through investments, whether we receive or whether we are a borrower or a lender, net borrower or a net lender. So how do we calculate these things? What are the factors behind this? Then what are the implications? That something that we are going to discuss. Then when we do transactions with other countries, we need to do transactions in different currencies, foreign exchange. When we export something, we will get our income in dollars or Indian rupees or maybe Chinese yuan or euro, whatever currency. When we import, we may have to make payments in whatever the foreign currency. Then there should be a way of changing one currency into another currency. That is the foreign exchange market. Then the exchange rate. At what rate we exchange a dollar to a rupee or rupee to a dollar? What is the price? How do we decide that price? What are the regimes that we have in the global markets or in different countries to determine the exchange rate. What are the factors behind that, and how do we determine the exchange rate? Then what are the implications of these changes in exchange rates to the balance of payments, or how economic cycles of the GDP will have an impact? We will discuss those things later. Then the other thing is unemployment in the macro level. What is the proportion of the working force employed or unemployed? Because that gives an indication about the health of the economy and the life standard of the people living in the country. Again, employment will be high when the economy is good. When the economy is doing bad, unemployment would be high. So all these are interlinked. So we'll discuss these linkages and how do we measure things. The other concept that we are going to discuss, inflation. That means price changes. Inflation means increase in price. How do we measure? What are the repercussions? Is inflation good or bad? Shouldn't there be any inflation? That means should it be zero inflation, or should it be there be any inflation, small or big? Those are the things that we. Then inflation. What would happen if there's a high inflation to the exchange rate, balance of payments, economic cycle? To control all these, there are policies. That's not directly macroeconomics. It's maybe managing the macro and the microeconomics. What are the economic policies that can be adopted? But the thing is, who is going to make these policies, implement these policies? In any country, there are two major entities who can decide economic policies and implement economic policies. Two different policies. One is we call fiscal policy, that is done by the government. It is about government expenditures, government income and taxes. On the other hand, central banks, they execute they're responsible for the monetary policy. So we are going to discuss what does it mean by monetary policy, how central banks implement monetary policy, what are the tools available for the central bank, then how these policies will have an impact on the economy. Same thing for the fiscal policy as well. What are the tools available for the government to implement fiscal policies, and how do they do that, and when? So you might have heard about contractionary policies or expansionary policies. What does it mean, and when to use? So what would be the impacts? Whether we will see the impact as expected. So what are the pros and cons? Those are the things that we are going to discuss under macroeconomic theory and through the central banks topic. Then we'll move into micro. In that, what we are going to discuss, how individuals or the firms demand something or supply goods or services. What are the factors? What are the theories behind demand and supply? You know that the prices depends on the demand and supply. How do we come to get the equilibrium levels? Then what would be the price? If price increase, what would happen? Or if the supply decrease, what would happen to the price? Things like. Then firms, they make decisions based on their cost function. What is their cost of production or cost of giving the service? So we are going to discuss that. Then firms, especially, they need profit. How do they decide their profit margin? Things like that we are going to discuss under microeconomics. Now you can see the difference. In the macro, we discuss everything in aggregate. Here, this is at the individual level, individual firms level. Then the different industrial structures available in the market. So perfect competition. So among firms, there is a competition to sell their goods, grab the market share. If it is fully competitive, what are the characteristics of a perfect competitive market? Then what are the barriers? Then a monopoly, that means you have the full control of the market as the supplier. You have the full control. When we can see that type of markets, in which goods or services, what are the repercussions? Then oligopoly, that means it's in between sort of perfect competition and the monopoly. There are few players, but they can get together and control the market. So those are the things that we are going to discuss at the first part of this chapter under economics. Then we'll move into statistics, financial mathematics, and investment analysis part. So any questions before we move into macroeconomic theory? So am I too slow or too fast? Hope these things you have some familiar. Is it?
Yeah, all good, sir.
All good. Okay. Hope others are also having the same view. So we'll move into macroeconomic theory. So this is objective. I think you can read. So basically, at the end, you should be able to know how national income is determined. Not to the exact point, but broadly, how are we going to determine the national income? What is national income? What are the measures? GDP, gross domestic product, and gross national. That's the broad objective in this topic. So what is national income? Before we start discuss about GDP or the GNP, that national income, first we have to think about how an economy works. We'll start with a simple economy and a closed economy. So that means in a closed economy, what do? We provide everything. We provide all inputs. We produce whatever we need. We consume everything. We don't buy it from outside, that means from another country, or we don't sell anything to any other country. We have resources. We utilize those resources to produce goods and services what we need, and we consume everything. That's the simple model, production output cycle model. So first we'll try to understand that, then we'll extend it to when we introduce more economic agents and when we open the economy, what would happen. So in this model, there are two major economic agents. That means type of participants. First group is households, individuals like you and me. The other one is firms, those who produce goods and services. What are the transactions taken place between households and firms? What are the relationships? How firms produce things, To produce things, they need inputs, the resources. So who provides those inputs? Households provides those inputs. We call them in economics factors of productions. Factors of productions. To produce goods and services, the inputs are provided by the households. So the labor, land, and capital. Those things are provided by households. Then, using those, firms produce goods and services. Who purchase those goods and services, or to whom the firm sells goods and services? That again back to the households. We give our inputs to firms to produce goods and services. Whatever they produce, we consume those goods and services. So this is the basic model. We call this as a production or the output cycle. Then income. In the previous one, we discussed about production. We give inputs for the production, we get output from the production and consume, but it's not for free. When households give their inputs to firms, firms pay wages or the rents of the capital provided, dividends and those things. So that is an income for the household. That is the income for the household. But on the other hand, when household purchase goods and services from firms, households pay the price to the firms. That is, we call consumer expenditure, whatever the expenditures by the consumers or the households. That cycle we call income and expenditure cycle. Is it clear? Then in the simplified model, we combine both. Yes, is there any question, please? Okay. So in the simplified model of the economy, we combine the production or the output cycle and the income expenditure cycle. So households provide inputs to firms. Firms produce goods and services consumed by households. When households provide inputs, firms have to pay for that. That is the income. That is the national income. Whatever the rent, wages, all those things, we consider it as the national income. On the other hand, expenditure, whatever the households spend, that is expenditure. So in that sense, what would be the national income? So in this model, income, this national income would be same as the expenditure, and it should be the value of the output as well. So therefore, this equality falls in a simple model. Income should be equal to the expenditures. It should be equal to the value of the total output we produce within a given time frame. Remember that. That is within a given time frame. So this is the simple economic model. This is closed economy. So we don't buy anything to produce goods and services from other countries, or we don't buy anything for our consumption from other countries. We don't sell anything to other countries as well. That is, this is the closed economy simplified model. But when we introduce this global trade, import exports, as well as other economic agents like governments or the financial institutions, banks, the picture becomes a bit complex, and there can be injections and leakages of the income in the system. So we discussed in the closed economy, firms produce goods and services. To produce goods and services, they purchase inputs, providing the price relevant, then it will be the national income. And on the other hand, whatever the expenditures of the households, that's the expenditure. Is that the cash flows that occur in an open economy, or when there's a government, when we have global trades, when we have financial institutions, banks, likewise. Okay, first thing, say global trade, export, imports. Yes, we buy goods and services from other countries. We sell goods and services to other countries. So whatever the output, it may not come to the households, everything, and the expenditure may not be equal to the value of the output, because part is going out from the country. On the other hand, even the households, they may consume something produced outside the country through imports. So then some of the income is taken by government as a form of tax. On the other hand, government make expenditures. Households or the firms, will they consume that all income? It's not. They make savings. So therefore, there are leakages as well as injections. Tax, it is an leakage. Whatever the income, part of it, we have to transfer to the government as the tax. So for the consumption, for the households, not the whole income is available to purchase goods and services for their consumption. On the other hand, some of the consumption or the sum of the income we use to purchase goods from other countries, imports. We use part of our income to purchase goods from other countries, purchase goods or services from other countries. So our income goes out, going out from the country, from our closed system. So it is also a linkage. Then the other one is savings. Not that everything that we receive, we don't consume. We save something. So it will go to financial institutions like banks or other financial institutions. So those are the leakages. What are the leakages? Taxes, imports, and savings. Then what are the injections? Government may make expenditures. Government make expenditures. So that will come into the system, to the economy. That will go back to firms. Government purchase goods and services from the firms. So that will go there. On the other hand, firms may sell goods to other countries, exports. Then we receive income. That is also an injection. Then, whenever people save in the banks, what do? They make investments again back in the firms. So it is an injection. So there are three broad leakages and injections in an open economy. Even in a closed economy, this government and financial institutions will be there. But in an open economy, that global trade is the additional part. So through that, we have three leakages: tax, imports, and savings. Same time, we have three injections: exports income, government expenditures, and investments. So if we know all those things, then we can measure the GDP, gross domestic product. So through GDP, what do? We try to measure the size of our economy, or size of the economy of any country. So the GDP is defined as the total market value. It's the total market value of all the goods and services, produced within a country. Remember, produced within a country and during a specific time period. Generally, it is measured annually, or what is the GDP for a year. But not only that, we measure it quarterly as well to identify what are the trends in the economy. So, however, there should be a specific time period. Then, what is the total market value of the goods and services that we produce within the country? And remember, the other word that we use, all the final goods and services, not just all the goods and services. So we'll discuss what does it mean by final goods or services. So that's the definition. Simply, what we produce, what is the value of our production within the country, total production. That is, we call GDP, and use it as a measure of national income. So there are a few keywords in this gross domestic product, the word, as well as in the definition. So what does it mean, gross? It is before making any allowances for depreciation in capital stock. We have machineries, plants, buildings, all those things. But with the time, those will be worn out. But we don't keep any provisions for those. We don't deduct anything. Without any deduction, we take it. The capital stock is available as it is. So without making any allowance for the depreciation, we calculate GDP. That's why it's called gross. It is not net basis. It is based on gross basis. Then the other one is market value. Why do we have to use the market value? If our objective is to measure what is our output, level of output, but how do we measure it? Why do we need a market value? Can we say we produce different goods? We produce paddy, we produce tea. In the agricultural sector, we provide services, banking services, or the telecommunication services, or even a plumber, all those things. How can you add them? Can you add number of rice kilos that we produce in the economy with the number of balloons we produce and number of hours we spend on banking services? We can't add them together, different units. We need one unit of measure. So for that, we use this price. So every good and service that we produce, there is a price. So we use that price and multiply it by the quantity, we get the value. We use that value, then we can add, it is in rupees or dollars, whatever in a single unit, then we can add them together. So that's why we use the current or the price. Why do we use the current price? So that is the value as of today. But again, using current price, there are pros and cons. Sooner we are going to discuss that. What are the repercussions of using current price? And again, when we use the market value, that includes all the taxes, maybe direct or indirect, such as VAT. Inclusive of all taxes, we value the output. So that's how we measure. Then there's a word, final goods. What's a final good? Or what's not? Then what are the other type of goods? We call them intermediate goods. So for an example, consider tire and a vehicle. If you count the value of tires into the GDP, then you add the number of vehicles we produce and add that value as what would happen? We double count the value of tires, because whenever we price the vehicle, which includes tires, windscreen, engine, everything. So we are not going to count tires separately, windscreen separately, and things like that. So whatever the goods that we produce and which is used as an input to produce something else, those are we call as intermediary goods or services. Those intermediary goods and services are purchased by some other producers to produce something else. So then what is the final good? That is the ultimate product, which is purchased by the ultimate consumer or the ultimate user. So they purchase it and use it, not to produce anything else for the consumption. So that's the difference, intermediary goods and final goods. Therefore, to avoid double counting, if we count or add the value of intermediary goods into GDP and at the final good value, we double count in value of intermediary goods. To avoid that, we don't consider value of intermediary goods to calculate the GDP. Only the final goods. That is very important things to remember. Then what else? What else we include? What else we exclude? Say we do a financial transaction. You make an investment in a government bond. Will that add to GDP? Or you buy a share. Will that add to GDP? Or you transfer funds. Say either you receive funds from your relative or you transfer funds to your relative. Say if you are a student, you might receive funds from your parents. Will that add to GDP? It won't, because there's no production involved in that. So these are just income transfers or financial transactions. Those are excluded from the calculation of calculation of GDP. But say whenever you buy a bond or buy a share, other than the price that you have to pay to buy the share, what do you have to pay? Anything that you pay?
Fees and brokerage.
Yeah, fees and brokerage. Those will be counted to GDP. Why? It is the price that you pay to get a service. The broker firm, they gives you they give you a service. So there's a price for that. You pay that. That will be added to GDP, but not the price that you pay to buy the share or the bond. If you make a fund transfer from one bank to another bank, if there's any charge for that, that will be it. That is the price of the service, but not that amount that you transfer from one account to another account or one person to another. It won't count. So that's why, okay, not only that, assume you buy a car, not which is imported today, but which is imported few years back. Someone has used it. Now you are going to buy it. Will it include in the GDP? Again, the answer is no. Why? It is not a, however, if it is the imported one, it is not a production within the country. Assume we produce it within the country and use it. Now you are buying it from another user. It is not a part to include in the GDP, that transaction, because it is already counted at the time of production when you buy it for the first time, not exactly when you buy it for the first time, when it is produced. There's a difference in that as well. We'll discuss that as well. So those won't include in the GDP. But again, if you pay any sales commission or things like that, that will be included in the GDP, because it is because of you get a service, you receive a service, or you give a service. That value will be added to the GDP. And the government.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Mr. Nishanth.
Yes.
What about the funds sending by expats?
Good question. It is not included in the GDP. It is not included in the GDP. Just to answer or to complete the answer, it will be included in the GNP, gross national.
Because it's not within the country.
It is not within the country. Exactly. That's what I said. In the definition, the keywords I highlighted are very important. Value of the goods and services, or final goods and services produced within the country.
Okay, in that case, let's say if I work here in Sri Lanka and for my service, for some
But you provide the service for overseas
country,
company,
and I'm getting.
You get it. Yes.
Okay. Got it.
So those won't include in the GDP. Then government income transfer payments. What does it mean? Say now in our context, Sri Lankan context, this Samurdhi or Astasuma, whatever those things, it's just fund transfer from government to an individual. Is there any value addition? Is there any production? No. So then those type of things, welfare payments, will not counted for the GDP. Yes, no value addition. So,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
From your previous example, the intermediate product and the finished product. Now you took tires as a intermediary product and the manufacturing of cars as the final one. And in that case, now these two, these are two different firms producing two different items, and
Yes.
say the tires are not consumed within that particular year. So this company A, which produces tire, will be having a stock of tires, which has added value to the economy, but it has not been consumed by another company. So in that case, can't we take those tires as GDP?
Then correct. Then we will come to that point as well, because we have to discuss about the inventory. That's what I mentioned little while ago. So even that car you bought in the secondary market, I mentioned that at the very first time you bought, it is counted. But and I mentioned not exactly at the time of you purchase. It is counted at the time of you produce it. So if you produce it, but you don't sell it, it is in inventory, it will be counted. Got it? It's not that at the time of sale that you count it. So you produce something last year, sell it this year, it will be added to the last year GDP, not into the this year GDP.
Thank you, sir.
And remember, GDP is not a exact or the perfect
Figure.
accurate figure. It is an estimate. That's why time to time the figures are revised. Say you might see towards the mid of second quarter or the end of second quarter, Q1 GDP is announced. But when the second quarter GDP announced, there may be a revision to the first quarter GDP likewise, because it is an estimate. The more information they get available, the estimate will be refined. It will revise upward or downward, depends on the information. It is an estimate. Yes, someone wanted to ask something.
So if we produce something and if we don't sell, but still inventory inventory is counted
Counted, yes,
for the particular year.
for the particular year.
So in this case, car manufacturing case, can we assume simplify it? Say one producer is making 100 cars per a year, and one tire manufacturer is making say 500 tires. In that case, he must be selling 400 tires to the initial manufacturing of that 100 cars. So in that case, we will be taking that 100 cars, including the 400 tires, as GDP for that year. And the 100 tires will be taken, that which is in the inventory also will be taken as the product in the GDP for that particular year.
But then the next year, when you price.
Next year, if we produce again another 500 tires, that will be the replacement for that 100 cars. So that will be all 500 will be included.
No. Whatever they are in the inventory, it won't count for the next year because it is produced last.
Sorry.
Whatever the tires in the inventory,
yeah,
should not counted for the next year.
So whatever the inventory for in the previous year.
Previous year, yes.
So that 100,
yes.
Unless it is sold.
No, even you sold it, it is produced last year, it is counted for that.
Okay, right. Okay, right. Good. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So see, that's
sorry.
good that you ask those questions. So even sometimes I may not remember to explain all those things, or forgot to explain these things, or your different level of understanding and things. It better you ask questions, then we can clarify all those things. Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. Nishant, regarding, within this same scenario, like, okay, now we are not producing cars in Sri Lanka, but let's say we are producing tires. In that case, still that will be counted as a,
into our GDP.
Okay.
Into our GDP. See, it's into our GDP.
GDP, right? Yeah.
But say now we produce tires here, counted into GDP.
Yes.
We export it to, say, India.
Yes.
Then India won't count that.
Yes.
As into their GDP, even at their vehicle price, they have to deduct that part.
Okay, got it.
So same, say we import something to produce something here, then we cannot consider the cost that we pay to buy that raw materials to produce the last final good. Only the value addition that we count to GDP. What is the value addition we made within the country?
Okay.
Clear?
So that also implies intermediary products are not always excluded from GDP, isn't it, sir?
Yes, yes. Yeah, for simplicity, we explain that way, yes, even in it's a
Yeah. In that case,
intermediate.
in the intermediary product that we are talking is we have to consider that if the main car is produced in that
Produced
country
within
only, that becomes the intermediary product.
intermediate. Yes, yes,
Otherwise, it is not.
it is not. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Anything else?
Thank you.
So the fourth bullet point, only production within the country is counted. It is clear now. And only goods produced during the current period are counted. So whatever the year or the quarter that we consider, whatever we produce within that, we count only that. And you know the flow concept and stock concept. GDP is based on the flow concept. It's a flow measure because during a period, whatever we produce during a period, not what is we have as of a particular date. If you have something as of a particular date, that is the stock. Whatever the flow or the produce during a period, it's a flow. I hope you are clear about it. Stock and the flow. So the GDP is based on flow. It's a flow measure. And the other one is GDP is a lagging indicator. It is about the history. It's not about the future. What we produced last quarter or the last year or last 3 quarters, likewise. When we get to know about that, maybe we have moved another quarter into the future. We get first quarter GDP maybe towards the end of the second quarter. So we see about our economy or any other economy, what was happened in the history. So we call it as a lagging indicator. It doesn't give you about the future. Is it clear?
That's fine.
So therefore, when we estimate GDP, there are 3 approaches basically that we can use because of that equality, expenditure equal, income equal, production or the output. But most common method is the expenditure approach. In many countries, they use the expenditure approach. So which is explained in the cost materials. So we will discuss that expenditure approach. Based on the expenditures, we are going to measure the GDP. When we say expenditures, now we have 4 categories of expenditure. First one is personal consumption, households, what they consume. Then the other one is government. Government make expenses. What are those? Then the gross domestic private investments. What are the investments within the country? Then fourth one, the net exports. Whether we have earned an income through global trades or whether we paid them. So what are the things included in the personal consumption expenditure? So that is the consumption made by the households. what is the expenditure. There's expenditures. They buy maybe consumption goods. That means or durable goods. In an economy, this is the largest component of the GDP. But throughout or over a period of time, this may be relatively stable because for foods, however, we have to spend. For health, we have to spend. For education, we will spend. Likewise, so there are stable items. Those will be there. Households will consume those things. So it is mostly stable. And that includes spending on durable goods. What does it mean by durable goods? If you buy an automobile vehicle or any other home appliances, maybe TV or a computer or kitchenware, something like that. Those are durable goods. Non-durable goods, what we consume in day-to-day our lives, foods and things like that, and the services, transport, banking or the financial services, things like that. All those consumed by households, individuals. So those are called personal consumption expenditure. That is the largest portion of the most of the time it is the largest portion of the GDP and mostly remain stable. Then the government. What are the government expenditures? Government spend on infrastructure. Government spend on infrastructure. Develop roads, highways, schools, hospitals, or maybe they buy weapons. All those are government expenditures. But again, remember, does not include transfers. Government pays Aswasuma or Samurbi or something like that. That expenditure is not included in the government expenditure component of the GDP. Therefore, that component is smaller than the total government expenditure. Within a year, what is the total expenditure by the government? That is large than the component that we included into the GDP. Because for the GDP, we counted only the expenditures done by the government on goods and services. So, salaries, will it be included? Is it included? Any guess?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Why? It is paid for the service the government obtains from individual. There's a value addition. So that will be included. If they make a transfer or give, say, welfare, or say there was a landslide, they give some money for those affected people. Those things will not be included. Clear? Then the other component is gross domestic private investments. Yes.
This means Mr. Nishankar.
Yeah.
Now, in government donations, still there may be commodities that given as donations from the government, like rice. So they have to purchase it and distribute, right?
Yes.
So in that
then they purchase a good.
Yeah.
Then whatever the expenditure that will be counted.
Counted,
But
no?
whatever they give, it won't count. Because it is something produced within the economy. They purchase something produced within the economy.
Yes.
What
Yes.
do they do with
Yes.
that? That's the difference.
Yes.
So gross domestic private investments, again, the word gross is there. Again, remember, because investments made on capital or the fixed assets, it is not net on depreciation. Say you had a firm or the machine, now it's obsolete, you have to replace it with a new one. You replace it with a new one, so the total amount will be considered into the GDP. So net investments or the increase in the capital stock may be lesser, but what is included into the GDP is the gross amount. So here we count whatever the expenditures by firms or the companies or the factories. So this is volatile because not that they do make investments every day, or depending on the demand they have or what they see about the future, whether they can expand the business or whether they want to shrink their business. Depending on that, their investments may vary. So therefore, this part is volatile than the personal consumption expenditure. So which includes not residential fixed investments. So that means machinery and equipment things. Then the inventory investments. See, if you build your investments, that will be counted as investments. Then the residential investments, that means homes and apartments that we build, those will be considered. And again, remember, if a firm make any investments in a financial asset, which will not be, which is not included, not will be, which is not included in the GDP, because it won't give any value. But you make an investment, you get an income that will be added. So then the last component is net exports. That means what is the value of exports, total exports within the period, and what is the value of total imports, the net amount. That is again part of GDP. On net basis, what we produce. Is it clear? So exports and imports will be discussed, or the net export and the balance of payments will be discussed soon, maybe probably in next session. So these are the components that we consider to calculate or the estimate GDP under expenditure method. We are not going to discuss how are we going to do that in the income method or the output method. This would be sufficient. In that sense, the GDP is the sum of these four components. C for consumption, personal consumption expenditure. I is the investments, private investment. G is the government expenditures. X minus M is the X minus M. That is the net export. X is export, M is imports. So what is the net? This can be negative, remember, not it. That can be negative.
Recording.
I don't know. It's a code. Any question? Is it clear? The components of the expenditure method for estimating GDP. So then we have two terms called nominal GDP and real GDP. So what do you think? Shall we discuss this now, or we'll keep it for the next week? This is a point where we can stop, because the basic of GDP we discussed. Then we can move
And
forward
it is better
with
we
the
can
rest
start
next
fresh
week.
time next time.
Yeah, better. But remember, when you come to the next week class, now you should have some idea about what is GDP, because it's a continuation of GDP, nominal GDP and real GDP, then the economic growth and things like that. Sorry for the interruption happened at the very beginning. Hopefully next week it won't happen. I'll check what's the issue before we come to the next week. Any questions before we wind up, or any comments? Is it the phase that we are going? Is it okay?
Yeah, the pace is all right, sir. It's
All right,
understandable.
okay. Others also, I hope,
Yeah, that's fine.
have the same view. If not, yes, don't worry about someone says okay, the phase is okay and everything is okay. If it is not the case for you, please let us know. We'll try to come to a balance. If someone sees this phase is too fast, then we have to slow down a bit, because we have to take everyone. Otherwise, there's no point of doing this. Those who have some background knowledge just may feel bored, but just pardon. We have to go ahead with the team. Anything else?
No,
So,
thank
so
you.
Malaga, you said something like if it's an investment, it's not taken into the GDP, but if it's with a something like to the effect like if it's with a motive for income, it's taken. You said something like that. Can you
No.
explain
Okay.
that part?
Financial investment.
Okay.
Say you buy a government bond.
Okay.
You buy a government bond, 1 billion. It won't account for the GDP. Clear?
Okay, then when if I buy through the broker, whatever the brokerage that goes, that will come in.
Whatever the fees that yes, whatever the fees that you pay, that will be counted, because it is for the service that they provide.
Okay.
You pay the fee for the service.
Later, if I sell it at a profit with a capital gain, that component, where does that go?
So will it
We couldn't hear.
give a
Line is breaking, sir.
say you bought a government bond, then you receive a coupon. What would happen? What is that?
Sorry, sir. Come back again. What's the question?
You purchase a government bond, you hold it, then you receive a coupon. What would happen to that? What is that?
The coupon will be considered for the GDP.
Coupon will be considered because it is the cost that they pay, price they pay for the borrowing.
Yeah, that's kind of fine. So simply it's a cost of capital for them, isn't it?
Yes.
So similarly, what about capital gain? That bond is sold at a gain. Where would that get?
There won't be any value addition, so it won't count it. But let me check it. I have because that you get a capital gain because of the interest rate changes.
Not because of interest rate. I'll say, oh, yeah, interest rate movement, but the say appreciation of the value of that particular bond. So I say if I'm a company, then it adds to my company's profits. Will that be
it goes to the profit. Then it yes, it will add it to the GDP. It's your income, your profit. So say bank, you do this service to make a profit. You make an investment, you get a profit. That will be added. It is added to the.
But the capital gain, will it be added to the GDP, sir? Because it doesn't add any value to the economy, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a service, you know, whether it is
it's a service.
It's a service. So, you know, you're getting a better margin, I mean, for you. That's by selling at a better price.
So when we consider capital gain, it's not creating any, I mean, a service or a sale of, I mean,
Sorry.
So during a capital gain, there's no value addition being made to the economy, isn't it, sir?
You purchase a bond, you sold it at a capital gain. Then the question is value addition to the, but on the other hand, you have a interest. However, let me check. I'm not sure that one. Yes, I have a doubt. Initially, my view was yes, it should not be. But on the other hand, a firm make a profit because of a service provided, but the interest income is the service provided. It is the for the cost of funds. Capital gain is not like that, but there's an interest component because why the price of the bond increases. That is there. Let me check and come back to you.
There could be other factors for that. Rate increases, inflation, and all those will come into effect.
That is also there. Say our credit rating improves, price can go up. Yes. Then but still again it is the change in interest for whatever reason. But it is not that you get further capital provided to the borrower directly. You provide capital to the borrower and you receive interest, that is the service. But assume you purchase it at a discount, you keep it until maturity, you get that capital. Then it is a part of interest cost for the borrower. So then it is interest income of for you.
Again, that change is
Isn't it?
going to
If you
come
hold
due
it
to
on.
some factors. That is, the investor is going to bear the risk, even if it is interest rate or credit ratings or whatever, inflation or
Yes,
whatever.
the investor has to bear the risk. Yes.
Bear the risk, so that because of taking that risk, he is getting more money, I mean, as a return.
Yes, yes.
So,
Whether you hold it until or you sold it in between, you hold
yeah.
it, or you bear the risk. However, I'll check that exactly. How would that account for?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
anything else? Anything else? So, however, calculating GDP is not that easy as we think. That's why it is, in a way, it's an estimation. So, based on the value addition, there will be a value addition chain. Different countries may use different methodologies to derive the figures. That is there. So then, if you don't have anything else, shall we stop here? And can we agree today to have half an hour extra next week? 7 to 9:30. Sorry about it. Otherwise, what we have to do is speed up. I don't think it is a good choice.
That's fine.
Okay then.
That's fine.
Good night.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
you for listening, and
Thank you. Good night.
good night.
Thank you, sir.